Becici is a small resort on the Adriatic coast, located 4 kilometers from Budva. But that's the distance from the center of Becici to the center of Budva. If you measure from the edge of one resort to the edge of the other, it's about 1 kilometer. So basically, it's almost nothing. You could say that Becici is close to Budva, and this greatly contributes to the resort's popularity. I'll explain why in a moment. At some small resorts, some people might get bored, but not in Becici. If you get bored, just go for a walk in Budva. I hope that walking 1 or 2 kilometers isn't too much of a problem for you. If you're tired, you can take a taxi or a bus. A trip over such a distance will be inexpensive. Besides, the infrastructure in Becici itself is also well developed. There are shops, cafes, and excellent beaches available. By the way, the beach in Becici is one of the best in Europe. I'll tell you a bit more about it later. So, it turns out that there are fewer tourists in Becici than in Budva. This means the resort is quieter and the beaches are not as crowded. At the same time, the beach is excellent and the town has all the necessary infrastructure. But if you ever want something more, the most popular resort in Montenegro, Budva, is just a few minutes away by car. What else do you really need for a comfortable seaside vacation? Becici is a small resort town, with only about 1,000 permanent residents. But during the season, the number of people increases many times over. There aren't any historical landmarks directly in Becici. But this drawback is completely offset by the resort's advantageous geographic location. There are many historical landmarks in Budva. You can also easily get from Becici to Kotoric about 30 minutes, or to Tivat, also around 30 minutes, or to Sveti Stefan, which is about 10 minutes away. All of these resorts have plenty to see. There are both historical and natural attractions there. The only historical landmark located directly in Becici is a 14th century church, the Church of St. Thomas the Apostle, and of course the beach. The beach in Becici is considered one of the best in Europe. In our time, it has received the popular Blue Flag Award. It was also recognized, I don't remember exactly, there at the end of the 19th century or at the beginning of the 20th. So this is a beach with a long history which has always been considered very, very good. The price to rent 2 loungers and an umbrella on the beach in Becici is about 10 euros, give or take, depending on the specific beach. There are plenty of cafes and restaurants along the promenade. If you wish, you can spend the whole day at the beach. The swimming season at the resort lasts just like at all other resorts in Montenegro from the beginning of May to the end of September. Which month is best to come to Becici for a vacation? That's not an easy question. Each month has its own pros and cons. The sea is warmest in July and August, but walking around during the day in the height of the season is less pleasant than at the beginning or end of the season. I think the reason is clear. The air temperature is also at its highest right at the peak of the season. In addition, during the peak season, accommodation prices in Becici are a third higher than in May and September. And you also need to keep in mind that in July and August, the number of tourists is much higher. Some people like crowds of tourists, but most people would prefer to do without them. And one last detail. In September, all the stores in Montenegro have sales. The discounts can be very significant, so if you have a shopping budget, keep this in mind, you can save a lot. Overall, friends, I personally like Becici. I think it's a very solid choice of resort for a vacation in Montenegro. Thank you all for your attention. Bye.